former trainer of the year, Berchelt Hunter, and I really enjoyed listening to John, Charles, and Frank on Real Boxing Talk.
Okay, folks, we are back on the Ultimate Sports Network with our two experts. As we said, we don't have experts. We're going to call them experts anyway, just because we decided that we don't have experts. And me, who's an expert host as well. So we're going to talk a little boxing, real boxing talk, talking about real boxing. If you didn't hear, we've changed the bumper from Darnell Boone to who, John?
Trainer by the name of Berchelt Hunter.
There we go. We have people liking what we do.
Yeah.
Endorsing what we do.
Berchelt's a very busy man, but he made time for us, so I'm very grateful.
And that means we are good.
That's right.
Doing it more often. Okay. Now, we got some stuff coming up this weekend. We aren't in the major stuff yet, but we're in stuff that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to jump right into something here, which gives me an idea of what's what. All right, let's start with Miguel Berchelt against Jeremiah Nakathila. That doesn't even sound right, but I know it's close. All right, the last time we saw Berchelt, he was getting KO'd by Oscar Valdez. The last time we saw Nakathila, I know that's not right. He was getting, and he's had a fight since then. He was getting dominated by Shakur Stevenson. Now, is this a moving up the ladder, moving down the food chain? John, what kind, is this a make or break fight for either one of them, or is this kind of a, well, if I win this one, I get a shot at the next guy?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out that name you were saying, Frank, because it sounded like necrophilia. So
that's why I said it couldn't be right. That's what I said. It could be right. But necrophilia. Yeah.
In his last fight, he looked pretty much dead. When I could joke now when he got knocked out by Oscar Valdez. So
yeah.
I mean, you just don't know with Miguel Berchelt what. I mean, you know, we know he's good. He's been knocked out twice now in his career. He's good. His chin is good. I mean, just because he got knocked out doesn't mean he has a bad chin. But these kind of knockouts are hard on here and whatever. I think he's going to be.
Right,
yeah, he's going to be fine. Being dominated by Shakur Stevenson is, get real. That happens to just about everybody. So he can't feel it. Necrophilia. Oh, wait, I better not say that. He can't feel.
How are we going to do it?
He can't feel bad about that. I mean, obviously he's disappointed, but I would think we've all done it. You in basketball, and you play somebody, and they're just better than you, and they're damn good, and you might not like it, but yeah, okay. I know nobody's better than you, Frank, but oh boy, yeah, but you acknowledge it later and say, well, look, the guy's just damn good, and I just can't hang with him, and that's what Shakur Stevenson is. He's dang good, really good. So more important probably for Berchelt because of the way he was knocked out, and he's a lightweight now, and he's moving up. That means the guy's hit harder. So there will be some question about his whiskers just because of his last fight, but he's a talented fighter. He's only lost twice, as we know, and we'll just see if sometimes fighters are gun shy, if they get knocked out. I doubt he will be. Tim Bradley said that after the Provodnikov fight that he wasn't very interested in getting hit in the chin like that anymore. I mean, you don't, like I said, there's these little intangibles, but I think the bottom line is he'll look pretty much like himself. But, as I said, I've been kind of iffy with my predictions lately, so don't take this. He should be fine, but again, you don't know. And the other guy, I'm not going to say his name again. He's facing a fighter that's better than him, most likely, and we'll see. He's probably thinking, look, I would think that if you're fighting a guy like this, you're thinking to yourself, he got knocked out in his last fight. Maybe if I tag him, maybe there's an after something with the chin, and he'll have problems again. But he's definitely the underdog. Berchelt wants a lightweight shot, so he's in the mix.
Well, Charles, when we talk about motivation, we talk about momentum, we talk about all these things, that the intangibles of what's going on. Both of them only lost 2 fights, and Berchelt's first loss was, 5-6 years ago. And so is it coming off of a loss or coming off of the big loss? Is it incumbent upon either one of them to be able to set the tone, or is it, I'm still good. I just, like John said, I just lost to a guy that was pretty darn good.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that you, as a boxer coming up a loss, you want to set the tone. Everybody has that idea. you have a game plan coming in, but you have to see what's going to happen, right? That's why they usually take a round or two to kind of see what the other guys are going to do and if they can move forward. Sometimes those plans are thwarted or they're messed up because they're fighting a totally different fight. So you have the great fighters or even the good fighters have the ability to adapt accordingly. So you always come in with a plan, but in the end, you're trying to win. But I think both of these guys, as you said, coming off losses against solid and perhaps great champions or guys that really are making their mark, it tells you something. So you're saying, okay, well, I still have it. I still got it. Just was in against like a, Shakur Stevenson's going to be a great guy. He's going to be a great champion one day. He's going to be one of the all-time greats. And then you look at the other one, you're like, okay, well, Berchelt's like, well, I was right there and this guy's moving on. So, but with all that being said, you come in with the game plan ready to go. But the main thing is you want to say, I had to remember what got me here. What my shine is, what got me to this point. I've only lost 2 fights. And with Berchelt, it's like, I should be better than this guy. I should be fighting the championship status. I need to do that accordingly. And other guys like, well, I'm finding out about myself. And here's another shot for me. I took it against Shakur Stevenson, Necrorelia. Yeah, I took it against Shakur Stevenson, and I came up short. But there's not going to be too many Shakur Stevensons that I want to face.
Didn't come across.
But with Berchelt, maybe he's off that day. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's still gunshot, as you mentioned, from KO. But it's wide open for both guys because until you get in there, you don't know. And these are 2 people that are trying to recover. Somebody's trying to make their claim or their stake to being relevant again. When I mean relevant again is like amongst perhaps the upper echelon or moving towards that way. So it's a great opportunity for both guys, but you don't know until you step in it. You can say, "Oh, I've been training, I've been running so many, such miles. I've been in the gym, I've been sparring with this guy." But until you get in there, man, and you see what the other person's doing, that's the only way you're gonna find out.
Well, you mentioned recovery, and let's jump to the next one. As I am the king of the segue, the recovery we have here is next. Josh Warrington trying to recover the belt that he threw away, basically. So, because I had to look at the lineage, I'm like, okay, how does Martinez have the belt? How did that? And I've remembered finally. Well, Warrington refused to fight for the belt because he wanted to fight somebody else. And he got stripped, and now here he is back after a loss and I want to call it a no contest, but a draw to Mauricio Lara. Now he's back for this belt. So, John, is it when you go into this fight, who's the defending champion? Who feels like they're defending champion?
Okay, real quick about those 2 guys that are fighting, Berchelt and low key.
Sorry, go ahead.
Elvis, just real fast. They have 52 knockouts between them, so we can pretty much say that there should be a knockout in that fight. So it'll probably be a really good fight. Yeah, Warrington fought Kiko Martinez before and beat him, and Martinez, in one of the upsets of the year, knocked out Kd Galahad. Warrington fought Kd Galahad and barely edged him. And Martinez was being dominated by Kd Galahad, and he just caught him and knocked him out. Round 6, I think, brutally knocked him out, like Warrington got knocked out.
Right.
The interesting thing was when Warrington got knocked out, Kd Galahad was mocking him for getting knocked out like that. So, be careful who you mock. It might come back and bite you. So, Warrington's just trying to get back. Let's get back. He's trying to get back, like James Brown said. He's trying to get back there because he needs a title, and Lara wants him again. And if I'm Warrington, I'm like, I know, but I mean, that second fight that you were just talking about, Frank, Warrington's in shape. He's got the crowd. He's got no excuses. He wins the first round, but second round, Lara is coming. And as we know, that guy can fight.
Right.
And I don't know who was more fortunate that it did. Like, I thought, man, Warrington, I thought he'd win the second fight, but I thought, I don't know anymore because the way Lara was fighting, it made it look like, even though it was so fast, that it wasn't a fluke what he did to him the first time. So, Warrington wants that title back because then he can decide what he wants to do next. and he should get it. Martinez is a lot slower than him. He's older, quite a bit older. He should be able to beat him. He just has to be careful, like Galahad wasn't. He just can't get hit. You know, Martinez is an older fighter who's still got the pop, and he's tough. So he'll keep on coming. That's what he did. Galahad hit him with everything. That was one of those fights where I'm just sitting there going, man, that's another one-sided boom.
Right.
Boom.
What happened?
That's what it probably will happen again as long as Warrington's on his game. But almost like Berchelt in a way that we're still not sure about Warrington after he got knocked out. I mean, again, brutal knockout. So I think he's past it, but then he didn't get his redemption against Lara, and I think that hurt him a lot. So he should be fine on Saturday. He's got his crowd. He's motivated. But then again, you only can do what you can do.
And Charles, you're looking at that when you've been hit with that one punch. You've never been hit with that one punch before. You start seeing it in your sleep. Or you start thinking, okay, or you just, I mean, how easy it or hard is it to get past that, do you think?
I don't think it's easy to get past it at all because you remember what knocked you out, what got you down. And you go, man, and they keep telling you in the gym, we've been practicing, you can come with that overhand right. So it means you got to keep this up here, right? And you keep practicing, and people hitting you. And then you get, like, people sometimes in the gym get lackadaisical. And one of the sparring partners or somebody else catch you with the same fight, same punch, you go, damn, man, what am I going to do now? So I don't think it's easy to overcome, but I think it's something that you have to just practice and be conscious of, and you just have to make it a habit. So you have to understand and prepare for what the dangers that your opponent is going to have. So if he has a certain thing that you knew knocked you out before, you got to do your damnedest to make sure I don't get caught again. Perfect example of that for me was, when I say that, I don't know if you know about it before, but John would love this, the first Andre Award fight with Kovalev. Because I'm watching that fight and I'm at the ring and I'm like, oh my God, he's in trouble and he's gonna come right back at him with the same thing, right. Same vigor. And the one thing I kept thinking is, can Andre hold on? Can he find a way? And I was like, because when you're watching it, you're like, he in trouble.
He was in trouble.
We never really saw him in trouble before.
Right.
And I'm saying to myself, this guy, he's known for his punching or whatever, but just the fact that even in fight, right, Andre Ward knows what can happen.
Right.
So you're still trying to recover from the standpoint, but that was masterful from he and Virgil Hunter from the standpoint of being able to adjust. And not only that, find a way to take the guy down, because the guy's brooding with confidence at this point, because he has you down, and first time like in your career, really your first time. I mean, from what we know what, some other things, but the one in a legitimate big time fight where he's in trouble, and it's like, you can't come back from this, right? So, right. But make that in fight adjustment, and then to go on forward and continue to make strides is amazing. So imagine if you had time to do it and you're waiting and and it hits you again from in another fight because of a rematch or something. So I wouldn't say that it's easy to do. I think it's hard, because when you look at even the Fury Wilder fights, right? Fury was tagging, Wilder was tagging Fury, but I know in the back of his mind, Wilder had to be thinking, this mother got me again. Wilder is so accustomed being so dominant with his style and knocking people the hell out, right? But when you turn around, you go, man, this guy Fury is like, blah, 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 making it happen. So it's one of those things that you just don't understand totally how things work out. So I don't know. I think you just have to work on it and be careful that you don't make the same mistake again. So I would not say that it's easy to adjust to that.
John, we're looking at two fighters that have fought the same guy, and we're always trying to figure that out. What common ground do they have? But can we infer from one guy's fight against Kd Galahad what's going to happen from another guy's fight with Kd Galahad? Does that make a difference, or is it just kind of like, well, it just kind of happened as a coincidence, let's move on from there?
I always say, right, styles make fights, and they do. but it's so hard to infer anything from styles. I mean, I always think about George Foreman and Ken Norton and Muhammad Ali, right? You've got Ken Norton gets blown out by George Foreman. Muhammad Ali struggles with Ken Norton, but he knocks out George Foreman. Right? And so you don't know what guys like Norton had a style that would bother Ali because he jabbed with him and he had a good jab and it kept Muhammad a little off balance and it never could really find a rhythm against Ken Norton. It's crazy. So it really is what I started this with. It's styles. If you're talking about Martinez, right? Back to him. His style was perfect for Josh Warrington and should have been perfect for Kd Galahad. But there's those intangibles that you're just not sure about that come into the game, and you think you know, but then you don't. And that's what makes boxing so interesting. Is you think, oh well, he fought him and he blew him out in two, and then the other guy fought him and he got blown out in two. So that means it's like we've said before on this show, accurately, I will say, we have a very short memory. A lot of times we go on what the guy did in his last fight, and we don't go back and look and see what he did 2 fights before that, or we have a short-term memory here that is only short-term, and it should be more long-term, especially with boxing. So yeah, it's that's why it's hard to predict sometimes. Even though most of the time you get it right, but there's sometimes there's that little thing like Lara. Lara was very aggressive, and Warrington had fought guys that were very aggressive, but he was also very overconfident. So you throw that in the mix, then like Charles said, the guy has an off day or something, and he gets tagged. So there are these weird things that can happen in boxing or in any sport that pop up that you're like shocked. How did that happen?
Say no doubt. It happens all the time.
Yeah. Oh, there's Frank.
Oh, I kind of froze there. Sorry about that. But part of what we get to, Charles, is that you get that what's going on here. How does this mix with that? How do they put it together? What fits what? And in this particular instance, I think that we have somebody that thinks they own the belt, somebody who owns the belt. Mm-hmm. And when we're looking at that, how does that play together? How does that, when you walk into the ring and you're the challenger, but you gave up that belt. And when you're the champion, you were technically given that belt. Now, he did have to actually fight eliminator to get there. But who thinks that they're the guy right now?
Well, I think
they both think they're the guy.
Well, I think they both do. I mean, because you said, well, I was the guy before, right? And you're like, okay, well, I should go back and be able to get it. But then on the flip side, you're looking at Martinez sitting there going like, look, man, I have it now. So we always look at the guy who has it. We live in the present. You can always say, well, I remember I was, because we can go back down so many classes and people say, yeah, I remember I had it 6 months ago. I'm gonna go back and get it. You look at probably the same thing that Mikey Garcia was thinking about. He's at 147, right. He's getting his butt whooped or whatever, and then he dropped back down to see if he can reclaim some fame. But so I think the current champion is the guy that's thinking, I mean, that's great, but I have it on my shoulder. I have it at my house. You don't. But of course, the other guys, like I had it before, I think I can reclaim it. But time passed.
The only reason he has it because I gave it up.
Right. Something to that effect. But still, he has it. Right. It's not in your possession. You can say, well, I had it, now I want to go back and get it. But I think they both come in confident. You're thinking about one guy who's thinking, I used to be the guy, I gave it to it. That's the only way he has it. I'll go back and get what's mine. And you had the guy that's the current champion, via eliminate or whatever, I still got it. Right. And I think I'm the champion because I have what you want, not vice versa. It'd be different if I was trying to challenge you coming for it. You're coming to me. So you can rationalize that all you want to. When they mentioned, they said, and the WBA champion, when they make the announcement, we know who they say. Right. And I think that's where it is. But as far as the perspective is for both guys, they're just looking for ways to kind of get themselves amped up to get ready to do what they have to do. One is a defending champion, others a guy that's like, I'm going back to take mine. So these are all great ways or mental things that get you pumped up and ready to go ahead and handle the business.
Okay, John, I'm going to mess it around here. Now, we mentioned Kid Galahad. Did we miss that as one of the great boxing movies of all time? Did we screw that up, or is that
his name?
yeah, no, the Elvis movie, Kid Galahad. Did we forget about that one?
Want to throw a movie. Like we mostly do. I guess, did I let you down by not doing that? Yeah, that was a remake, Frank, from the 1930s, right? So yeah, Elvis, I like Kid Galahad, actually. I like the Elvis movie. But yeah, but you know, you're right. And you see, the thing about, got to know about Kiko Martinez really fast is before he fought Galahad, he was saying that Galahad, he was saying, a much smaller Galahad, that he was going to quit if he lost. So it was, he had been stopped by Gary Russell Jr. a few years before. And the other thing, a little tidbit that's interesting, is when he fought Warrington 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, he only lost by majority decision. So that was 5 years ago. He's been stopped by Gary Russell. He lost another fight. Warrington's been knocked out. So then, now saying it like that, maybe it's close. You know, maybe it's closer than you might have thought before because of those intangibles. So again, that's what's going on. Yeah, Kid Galahad, 1962. Frank, Charles Bronson was his trainer, his coach, right? And who was the guy? I could see his face. God darn it, the actor that played his manager.
Gig Young?
Gig Young, who ended up his wife. Yeah, Gig Young. And according to what I read, here's a little movie tidbits for you, Charles. According to what I read, Gig Young was married, and this is true, was married to Elizabeth Montgomery, you know, Bewitched fame at that point, right? So she came on the set because she wanted to see Elvis. I mean, most women always wanted to see Elvis, right? So she met him, and we can be very pun-like and say she was definitely bewitched by Mr. Presley. So, and Gig Young did not like it. So he didn't like Elvis's character in the movie, and he didn't have to act. What I heard. I was alive, but I wasn't hanging out over there. And what I read, and so his animosity is true to life. And Bronson thought that Elvis was a joke, you know. And here's the flip side: he's an entertainer. I mean, this guy's playing a boxer. Give me a break. By the end of the movie, he had a lot of respect for Elvis, because he said not only was he a professional, always on time, knew his lines, but he worked really hard to at least look somewhat believable as a boxer. And, you know, he was into karate and all that stuff. So he's a good athlete, Elvis. So he pulled it off. We know what he was, but at least he wasn't ridiculous like some actors. So, yeah, so there's our movie history for March 1, 2022.
And as they say, Elvis has left the building, but he really hasn't. Elvis is going to be in, I think, Minnesota. I don't know. He's on. Elvis Rodriguez is fighting on the undercard of the Tim Tszyu fight on Saturday as well. So Elvis will be around Saturday somehow. And Kid Galahad is, yeah, okay.
Okay.
All right. This is what happens when I do research. It doesn't go well. It doesn't go well at all. It doesn't go well at all. This is why I make up stuff off the top of my head. All right, Charles. Completely different script here. Mm-hmm. Completely different from all of that. We've got a few things that a little housekeeping got to take care of. One, Alexander Usyk is going to fight. He has left Ukraine. He's getting set for that. And it doesn't look like Lomachenko is going to fight Kambosos, because I think he's going to stay in Ukraine. What do we make of all this stuff? Is it, I mean, I know the real world is the real world, but Kambosos is the guy that's trying to solidify his call as being this guy, of being a legit champion. Where do they go for, or where should they go to fill the void of Lomachenko not being there?
Wow, that's a hard one, because I mean, that's the fight you want, right? I mean, that's what you want. And you can go somewhere else. You can try to get somebody else, but that's what you want. Anybody else may be seen as you just said, a fill-in. Somebody else might be seen like you just kind of grabbing because you don't want to miss the opportunity. But then again, do you go outside the box and go after, entertain a younger guy, you know, a Devin Haney or somebody like that, you know, just off the top of my head. entertain that, and then that causes you a problem because you're not ready for that skill set. And if you can't fight them, I mean, if you want to fight them in a foreign place and you're supposed to be the champion, what kind of sense does that make too? So the whole point of it was moving somebody over to across the pond, across the waters, or wherever they may have to go to fight in the native homeland, and that's really not a possibility right now. So you come back to Vegas so you can just say you're getting a fight in against another type of opponent, or do you wait? So, I mean, as a trainer, they're probably going to look for another fight. But truthfully, if it was me, because I'm not sure how long this war is going to go on or whatever, but I would wait. I would wait a little bit because there's a lot of other fights going on too. And as long as I got something in before the end of the year, because let's say he loses.
Right.
Right. And then you start talking about belts and all the other stuff and things like that. And, you know, you're a champion and it's hard to get that back for some people. So my thing is, why wouldn't you just kind of, you know, why be in a rush to lose? We don't know that. And I'm not saying he could win his next fight, but Mari said that too. You basically have 364 days, 65 days until you have to defend it. You hear a lot of people telling you whatever, but you know, when you're at the top, you should choose wisely. Other people do it instead of running into it. So I don't know. I mean, I know we could throw another name in there, but if I was him, I'm sitting at the top of what other people want. I take my time, and who knows? Maybe in a couple months, Lomachenko might go, you know what? We can work this out somewhere. We can fight in London.
Sitting on this rock, let's go.
Yeah. You can fight in London somewhere. You know, so I would wait if I was him.
John, I mean, I know that we've said Kambosos deserved the win, but the question of is Kambosos the champion? And I know that that's a splitting hairs, but does he have to go out and defend this belt against somebody on this date? Or can he say, look, it's not happening right now. I can put it off until Lomo's ready to go. If Lomo's ready to go.
I think it's obvious he wanted Lomo. That's who he prefers. He wants Lomo because there's a deal on the table for him and Haney to fight. Haney's willing to go to Australia and fight it. And I think he's like, okay, yeah, but I think the prestige that Lomachenko would bring to the fight is more than he was something looking for. And he was thinking, I beat that guy. That's really huge. Haney is there. Haney wants it. And he could have a hometown fight. He has every right to just have a hometown fight against a guy ranked like 10th instead of taking on a tough opponent like Haney, because Haney, we know he can box and he's going to be tough for Kambosos to beat. I mean, obviously both of them would be. And you don't know. Maybe Kambosos is having a kind of a letdown. He had Lomachenko in his mind, and now he's like, Haney's fine, but he's young, he's got time. Maybe I can't get up for that, you know, like he did for Teofimo. And so, yeah, he is a champion. He earned it the hard way. He went to New York. He beat Teofimo Lopez, who we all thought was not going to lose to that fight, most of us. So he can pretty much call the shots, and he's been doing it. He's been like his own promoter. He's been annoying Eddie Hearn, which is always kind of funny. I like Eddie, and then sometimes he says things, and I go, Eddie, come on now. Right. You're just a promoter, you know. Don't be too hard on yourself here. So yeah, he could fight another Aussie if he wanted that was ranked somewhere, just because he can do whatever he wants, and people can ridicule him all they want. But if you ever look back at boxing history, that's usually what champions do when they win a fight like Kambosos. Very tough fight against Lopez. Grueling. He got knocked down. You have a right to have an easier one the next one. I never had a problem with that, you know, especially based on your previous fight. These guys, they have such a short shelf life that they have to be careful. Like Charles said, you got to choose wisely. Yeah. I don't think he'd get hurt necessarily against Haney, because Haney isn't a super hard puncher, but he's hard to fight. Mm-hmm. So there's that part. And if he doesn't think I got to really kill myself to get ready to fight this guy because I'm going to be chasing him for 12 rounds, I got to cut. You know, I got to be able to corner him and do all that stuff. Maybe he might say that. Maybe he might say, well, yeah, but I want to fight Lomachenko and I'm going to wait.
All right.
He can do that, and I didn't know that until I just checked Frank about Usyk. Okay, he's gonna do the rematch with Joshua, which is exciting. But I'm surprised because they're both in Ukraine, and why is he doing that? And why is Lomachenko? I can't say one is more loyal than the other. I mean, the fact that they both went there to fight was very admirable, noble, and all that. So I'm a little surprised that one is and one isn't. And Charles might be onto something when he said this could mean that Lomo's coming too, just not right now.
Just not right now. Yeah.
In a month, Lomachenko could say, okay, I got the clearance. Like it's just as Usyk got the clearance for the rematch. Maybe Lomachenko said, okay, now I'm ready. Unless the war ends here in the next month, and that's a whole different story. But it looks like a long one here.
Well, it kind of sounds to me, and I just read some snippets of it, and I'm not sure that I trust the source, but it kind of sounds like it's going to be the USO tour or the Cinderella Man thing. It's like, okay, we're in trouble right now. We need something to hang our hat on. Usyk is going to come out and he's going to beat the crap out of this guy, and that's going to be able to be our one shining moment. That's the story that I read, but again, it could have been made by somebody as stupid as me. So who knows? But it's the idea that that's where they're headed. Of I can probably help us better as a nation right now is going out and becoming defending my belt as opposed to sitting on a rock holding a rifle. I don't know. That's again. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know who exactly. Right. So I don't know really who wrote it, but that's one of the blurbs I saw. Charles, when we're looking at these guys that are fighting for more than, remember the Joe Louis. Joe Louis is fighting for all of us. When we're looking at, Floyd Patterson, we have to defend against Ingemar Johansson. Is it too much, or does that fuel a guy to get better, you think?
Man, I think it depends on the individual. I really do.
Okay.
Because of the factor that some people can handle it. Oh yeah, I'm fighting for my folks or fighting for my country, and I want to show you that I'll make a stand. So you might have great intentions going in, but then again, the fight is the fight. Style is the style that you have to face, and you still have to produce. I mean, was it Postal that was in the situation, right, when his last fight, and then he was talking about fighting with leaving his wife behind and kid behind. Right. I'm sure he had all intentions of going there and being represented, which he did do. I mean, it wasn't a horrible fight, but I'm sure he had all intentions of winning that fight. But you can try to put it on your back and serve as some motivation. But at the end of the day, when you get in that ring, that goes out the door. If you haven't trained, you're not ready, if you're not prepared for the style of your opponent, still doesn't matter. You can have all of the, everybody's depending on me, but at the end of the day, you got to perform. You don't perform. They can want you to be great as you want to be, but at the end of the day, it's about results, and you have to perform in the ring. So the campaigns and the notions are wonderful and salutations and all that, but at the end of the day, when you get your behind in that ring, you got to put it down. If you don't, you go and say, we had a great cause coming in, and he looks so great and valiant in this effort, and he was all in, okay, but it's loss.
L's and L, L's and L's and L's and L.
Yes,
They're the same. Ball don't lie. All right, well, John, I'm going to throw it this way at you. 5 fighters named Elvis. No, just kidding. Well, we got to Elvis Rodriguez. I did that. No, but seriously, let's get serious for a second, just for a second. Yeah, I know. When you get down to the brass tacks here, and we're looking at, this is something that we have to have. This is something that the fighters have to do. When you're making that decision of, I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to camp, and I've got blinders on. Is it possible, as a human, you were talking about being in the gym where Andre Ward was and Virgil Hunter, is it possible that you can do that with these distractions going on? Or is it kind of you unfold that? We use the example of Buster Douglas, the unfortunate passing of his mother, but that brought him more clarity. That was the best Buster Douglas you've ever seen. Is something like this, can it be beneficial for Usyk?
I think so. I think Usyk is a very proud guy. I think he's very proud of his country. I think he's going to be motivated anyway to prove that the first fight wasn't a fluke, and this will even be more motivated. I have a feeling that he's going to be there. You're talking about Joe Louis, and this ties in everything. You love these segues. When Joe Louis was brutally knocked out by Max Schmeling, as we know, he had to come back from that. He had to make an adjustment because he said that he saw something, and basically it was when Joe Louis would jab, he dropped his left, so that's why he was firing with the right hands. Now, nobody else was hitting Joe Louis with those right hands like that. Schmeling had a plan, and he executed, and he clobbered him. I mean, Joe Louis got brutally knocked out. He didn't just get stopped. I mean, he got knocked out, so he had to come back and face the devil again and knock him out in the first round. So, boxing is so funny, though. When you're talking, Frank, about this isn't exactly a segue or a tie-in, but I just love how stories come up, and I have to throw this one at you. Emir Khan, this is a little bit of a change, but Emir Khan, and it's all about boxing teams. I'm ready, it's the best training camp I ever had, blah, blah, blah. He was working with Terrence Crawford's guy, McIntyre, Bomac, and Terrence was working with him, and man, I've never had such a great training camp in my whole life, blah, 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 blah. And then Kell Brook dominates him for 6 rounds, and then what's the word? That was a mistake. I had a terrible camp. I'm like, why is it? This is the funny thing about boxers, and this is totally off our script that you've prepared so nicely, Frank, but I'm sorry. But why is it that these guys who can be such men can be such babies when it comes to this? Why can't they just accept that they're grown men and they made a decision? It's not the trainer. It's not because Terrence Crawford was standing next to you and you were afraid of him. It's not any of that. It's because you didn't do what maybe you could have done. Or he's never going to beat Kell Brook, ever. Never. Kell Brook's too strong. There's just no way. Why not just say that? You can't put your ego aside, right? And say, that's why I always like your guy's friend, your guy's friend. You guys know him personally. I know you hang out. Mr. Sean Porter.
Oh, yeah. You want to weigh in here?
He's there. Okay, well, tell him I'm talking about him. He never blamed anybody. Never. He blamed himself. He'd say the other man was better. He could have. He could have blamed his daddy if he wanted to. Oh, my daddy. Nope. He was a man about it. That's what I'm saying about being a real man in there. Julio Cesar Chavez, the legend. He blamed everybody when he lost. He blamed everybody. Even Oscar De La Hoya, who I always liked, he would always change trainers every couple of months because they're not getting the most out of him. Well, what about you, Oscar? I'm almost done here, venting.
Yeah, okay.
No, I just thought it was funny when we were talking about. But back to Usyk, yes. I think Usyk will be completely motivated to whoop Joshua. And Joshua, real quick, Joshua is kind of in that in-between thing where he doesn't really have a trainer now. Floyd Mayweather offered to help him. Why he didn't take him up on that, I have no idea. Why wouldn't you take him up on it? Nope. He doesn't even have a trainer now, from what I understand. He canned his other trainer. So what's he thinking? He's thinking he's just going to go in there like a madman against Usyk. Usyk knows that. Joshua's in trouble. In trouble.
Well, I was going to go another way, but Charles, since that elicited a giggle from me, why do you think Joshua's in trouble? Or do you think Joshua's in trouble?
No, I think he's in trouble. I mean, unless he comes back with he's matured to a point as a boxer that he knows what his strengths and weaknesses are, and he can go and deliver. I think that's always been a big issue for him. He had the ability and the potential to do some great things, but the point of it is knowing when to execute. And for some reason or other, it's almost like he finds himself in the position with, I will call, in my opinion, from what we have received from him, inferior opponents, right? At the time, when we think about, okay, well, who is this guy? Okay. And he finds himself in a position where he allows these guys to dictate the style of boxing, right? They dictate the match, and particularly guys that are faster, right? It's almost like faster. Even with the John Ruiz, the first fight, you're like, he's moving quick for a big man. He's like coming up, and he's catching him, and he's just kind of biding his time. And then once Joshua gets hurt, he tends to regress. I mean, he can still knock you out because he has that kind of potential, but these guys are like that. And if you don't have a trainer,
comes down.
Yeah. If you haven't been training and you've been looking for a trainer, a guy, like Usyk that is already been there, done that. Because you got to think, it took a lot to come up and challenge him at that level. You come from cruiserweight, that's not your forte, and Joshua's going to beat the hell out of you as far as he's going to take a physical beating. You had to get ready. It's like we know the storm's coming, but it's always that thing. Can we wade and just be good enough to wade through the most difficult part of the storm? Now we can get past it and move forward, which is what Usyk did. So once he saw it, he's like, you know what? I'm okay. And I think that alone, having the confidence that he did it before, then knowing too that, did you think about Joshua is to the point where he is not training or not with a good trainer or something to that effect, then it just makes you go like, here we go. So now he's ready to say, I earned it. I don't think he's going to do anything different. So I'm going to move forward. And I think it's just easier that way. He's kind of goes like, I don't have to do too much differently because I already know how to beat him. And I think that's why you say, why is Joshua in trouble? I think that is because the man already beat you. You haven't been training. You've been running around trying to find a new trainer. Why do you think now all of a sudden you're going to be able to beat me?
Right.
Because you haven't been doing the work. I don't think you've done the work to beat me. So I'm going to stick with my game plan. I'm going to stick with what I did. Maybe change to just kind of be available to alter some things if you do come at me crazy. But I'm going to stick with what I got, what got me here. And that's what made me champion.
I'm going to try and give a little perspective, I think, to what you, in the midst of that, you asked a question. And I think it's the question being, why do they think that they can get away with stuff? Why don't they understand all that stuff? Here's my take on it. It's like you went out and you've played the same 9-hole course for the last 5 years, right? And you're getting done after 9 holes and you're 2 under. You feel good about yourself. And that's pretty much an everyday thing. You don't have any par 5s. Your par 3s are easy to reach and everything's feeling pretty good. You're like, I can do this, and you're playing the same thing over and over and over again. You know where to avoid the water. You know how to get there. You know how to get up and down. It's easy. Even if you scull one, you know how to get back and you're okay. Then you end up at the Players. You're like, wait a second. Where did this island hole come from? And you think you know how to golf, but you have to spin shots. You have to shape shots. You have to do, or Charles' favorite course, Doral. You're like, oh, well, this is going to be interesting. How do I make this work? Well, at my home muni track, I can make these shots all day long. What happens now? And when you start stepping up, not just in class, but in attitude, and people are telling you how good you are, and you, as we said, we bought the Kool-Aid. And suddenly you go, it doesn't hit you until you tee up that shot on 17 and go, there's no way in hell I got enough game to make this shot. I never had enough game to make the shot. I don't know what made me think and that's, round 9, round 10, like, uh-oh. And it's getting harder. As Charles mentioned earlier, he's not backing down. He's getting stronger. What the hell do I do now? And that's where momentum, belief, I don't know how you quantify it, but that's where I see it. It's like, how do I either bring something internally out from me, or how do I recognize externally what I'm seeing and be able to overcome it? Now, there's not really a question there, but the idea being, you mentioned Andre Ward, or Charles mentioned Andre Ward being almost down and out. We've seen it in a number of fights. The Ali Foreman fight, where it's like, he's not winning this fight. He may think he's winning it in his head, but what we're seeing is he's not winning the fight. When you get to that situation, and I'm not going to, we mentioned earlier about trying to throw more names out there, but when you get to that situation, what happens in a fighter? When you're watching it ringside or watching it on TV, what happens to a fighter when you say, he's done, but he's not done? What do you see? Is it like a light comes on? Is it the trainer yelling at him? What do we see there?
I think it's just people. I think in all sports, some people have that extra level that they can, or not a level, they can dig deeper. And I was thinking about another Ohioan, Aaron Pryor, when he fought Alexis Arguello. I mean, he got clocked. And it's like, how is he standing there? How is he taking it? And then he would come back and keep coming back and keep coming back. And Arguello was right with him till the 14th round when he just got, God, that was brutal stuff. But so I think Arguello was in a couple of those fights too, where he was losing early and he came back. He did that against Boom Boom Mancini before he fought Aaron Pryor. He was losing to Boom Boom and then he stopped Boom Boom. I do. I think there's some people have that. I don't know. I don't want to call it more guts or more intestinal fortitude or whatever it is, but some have it. You see it in basketball. You see guys hurt. You see guys tired. Somehow, I saw Jordan do it. I saw Bird do it. I saw Jerry West do it when I was a kid.
Isaiah Thomas on the bad ankle, right? Yeah.
They just have something that maybe it is another gear that they put it in that shows that they're just better, but not just better talented, just better. I was going to say guts, but I don't want to say guts because it's not just guts. It's something, and I think every fighter, obviously you got to have guts to fight somebody in a ring. You could end up dead. I mean, let's be real. So that's guts. But then when you're really hurt, like what happened between Boom Boom and Dooku Kim.
Right.
You had guys that would not back up. They would not give up. They would not back up. And what happened? Could have been Boom Boom. He could have been the one in the coffin, if you.
Right.
It's just there's no quit. They both had it. So when you got those two, we've seen it when the little guys fight. We saw it a little bit. We saw it a few weeks ago with Lee Wood and Michael Conlon. That kid was getting killed for 6 rounds. Right. But was there any quit in him? No. I mean, I said in my article, he might have won the 6th round. Might have. But he went back to his corner like this.
Right.
So there's that hope that some of these, where other guys would be like, oh, geez, I can't beat this guy. I'm just going to get hit hard and go down. I can't beat him. There was a talk about Tyson for years that, yeah, he was really good, but if you got him down and in a bad way, he didn't have it. He didn't have that. Where Muhammad Ali had that in God from every inch of his body. There was no way he was ever going to quit. I mean, that's why they were afraid that George Foreman was going to kill him because they knew he wasn't going to quit.
He wouldn't go out on his own, right?
Right. So, and Joe Frazier had it, and I think Foreman had it too. It's just one of those things that it's one of those intangibles that fighters either have it and they don't. And I think probably 30% of them have it, and then the 70%, it might be higher, might be half of them have it. Because Andre Ward, I talking to that guy so many times, I remember thinking when he got knocked down, he thought to himself, okay, yeah, you knocked me down. He looked at Sergey Kovalev like, yeah, you knocked me down, but no.
Right.
I mean, considering what he'd been through in his life with his parents, being drug addicts, both of them, what he had seen, nope, that's not going to make me fold. And so some guys, they use that, I think, as the internal drive. And then he's got Virgil Hunter just giving him, as I told you, the pep talk of the century. You ever see that? I mean, it's the best pep talk you ever heard in your life. And then he just keeps coming and hitting Kovalev in the body, and we know what happens. So, yeah, it's athletes. Some have it. I want to say most. I don't know. It would be great that we ought to think about this. How many? What percentage do you think Frank or Charles have it? You don't even have to say percentage. Do 3 out of 10 have it? Where does that come from? Who has it? Who doesn't?
And can it be taught? Now, Charles, I was talking to somebody that I've known for a long time, and it was how did the 4 or 5 of us end up being basketball players when the whole neighborhood was basketball players? Did we weed out the guys that end up being over 6 foot tall? Or do we know that from parents and heritage or whatever? Or did it just kind of happen that way? And suddenly the 5 guys in the neighborhood or 4 guys in the neighborhood that are 6 feet tall are still playing basketball. The ones that weren't. Now, what I'm going with that is, how do we find those guys? How is it bred out of you in the gym when you're a younger kid and you end up becoming that guy? Or is it that's you've always been that guy? And looking at guys like Andre Ward, looking at guys like Joe Frazier, they may have had it early, but I'm sure there are other guys with them as well growing up that had that idea, that goal, that mindset, but maybe they didn't have the stick-to-itiveness, or they just got left by the wayside. What is it? What is it that gets a guy over the edge?
Wow. I think for some people it's inside you. It's what I call almost like an internal flame, right? So when you face adversity, and then they help you build up on it as you continue to move forward, depending on what you're doing. So I think a guy like Andre Ward, or Floyd Mayweather, right? Guys like that, I could go on and on, but those guys have an internal flame where you kind of go, as it was mentioned, John mentioned about the adversity that Andre Ward faced with his family and his parents. It's like, okay, I got to keep going. It's burning inside me. So whatever I'm facing, this guy in this boxing ring, there's nothing compared to what the hell I've overcome. And I think people like that go that route. But you mentioned before about, is it something that can be taught? I don't think it's something, it's like what we call in basketball and sports, DAWG. You got any dog in you? You got any fight in you? I'm not sure. I think you had to have part of that in you. But what they can do, I think, is teach you enough, provide you with a skill set and motivation, if you don't have it in you initially, to get you going. So you come out and you're fighting a certain guy, you have a certain way you're going. And for instance, and I'm not saying that Lennox Lewis doesn't have any dog in him, but maybe not as strong as the next man. But when he fought Mike Tyson, in his mindset, he was, I think, worried about fighting the guy that he was fearful of.
Big animal, right?
Yeah, and Emmanuel Stewart, to his credit, was like, that's not the same MF that you were scared of. We've been in the gym. You don't have to do nothing special. Do what we worked on. So that way, when you don't, if the guy may not have the heart you're looking for, you can use the training that you have, your training in the skill set to go, you may not have a dog in you, but the skill set that I taught you and I've given you allows you to be dominant on this person. When he comes in, he drops his damn right hand when he throws that left. You are able to counteract. We've been working on this in the gym for 9-10 weeks. Do what we practice, knock his ass out. Excuse my language. Knock him out. That way, you kind of make up for the heart. But at the end of the day, there's going to be a time where the heart is going to be something you got to rely on. And everybody may not have it. It doesn't make you a bad person. I mean, because listen, I'll make this real quick. When you think about Alexis Arguello, when he fought Aaron Pryor, right? You got to say to yourself, you got to believe that Alexis Arguello wanted to beat Pryor. You know it. You know it is in his heart. He's like, I beat Boom Boom Mancini. And he's like, man, I want to beat this guy. But all the heart in the world did not allow him to beat Pryor. He couldn't beat him. And the man cried. He was so upset that he couldn't beat him that he left and joined the damn war. He went to fight. He became a freedom fighter.
Yeah, right.
And it's just what it is. So you can have all the heart in the world. If you don't know how to channel that energy and use it to your ability, it is what it is. So I think it works. Depends on the individual. I really believe that, because everybody doesn't know how to use that. My last example here would be like, we talk about basketball all the time or all kinds of sports, and you see where an athlete might get mad or angry. I have dealt with that firsthand. And because you get frustrated or mad, you have rage, people go, he just mad. It's not going to help him. But in the end, it does. Because I used to feed off of that. I'm like, I'm going to be a better player. You might think I'm angry or upset or frustrated, but I'm going to be a better player because I'm taking that fuel and I'm like, not only am I mad and I'm frustrated, but now I'm going to use that against you to do what I need to do. And I think that's not for everybody. Some people, they can't function when they're mad. They just shut down. And I think boxers are the same way. Like Floyd Mayweather when he when he fought Shane Mosley, Shane caught him, and they was like all excited, and Floyd was like, "Damn," and went back to the corner like, "Damn, he got me." And he's like, "All right, let's." And then of course Uncle Roger says, "All right, no, let's go get this motherfucker. Let's go get him now. He didn't feel like he's doing something. Let's go get him now. You know what I'm saying? Go get this motherfucker." So that's you gotta. I think it's on the individual how you use that. If you have the dog in your intestinal fire in you, or they had to find another way for you to try to be successful.
Well, it's almost as if we mention intangibles because I think we do that sometimes because we don't know what else to say. Oh, he's got great intangibles. He's got great feel. But in this instance, I think it's true that sometimes we just don't know what it is until it's forced to come out. And I think we've been privy to some of the great examples. We've mentioned the Pacquiao Marquez fight, where that fight was done. There was no reason for Marquez to fight anymore. You know, it's like, okay, I just hung a 17 or 16 on the first hole of the tournament. There's no point in playing the rest of this tournament. I'm going to DQ and walk off here. You know, I'm 14 shots over par, and I'm going to the second hole. There's no reason to keep going, but you keep grinding and finding a way, you know. And I liken it to the Falcons beating the Patriots in the Super Bowl that I still haven't seen the second half of because there's no point in watching the rest of it. And the Patriots came back and did something about it. So what is it? I'm not looking for an answer. I'm looking for a feeling. When we're watching it, and for those that are watching it with us, what is it that we see when the tide turns and we get that momentum and the fans start to shift? So those of you that aren't really into it as much as we are, we're going to try and give you something to look for. John, what's the first telltale sign of like, wait a second, this isn't over?
Well, Lee Wood and Michael Conlon, I'll use that one because it's fresh. You know, people on YouTube and watch it. You'll see around the sixth round, something very subtle was happening. Lee Wood was getting a little closer. He was still getting beat. He was still getting hit, but he still believed, and he started to hit Conlon a little bit, and I think he made Conlon wonder a little bit. Conlon had hit him with everything. That's another question to ask some fighter if we have on the show, Frank. How does it feel when you hit somebody with your best punch and he just looks at you?
Yeah, right.
It's got to be tough, you know. And Conlon is not a knockout puncher, but he hit him with some great. He really knocked him out in the second round, and he got up and he kept coming. You know, since today is movie show, it's that great line for Rocky II that I love so much, where Apollo wants the rematch, and his trainer says, no, and he says, why? He goes, I saw you beat that man for 15 rounds, and the man kept coming after you. We don't need that kind of man in our life.
We need that in our life, right? Exactly.
For Stallone, and I think that's the thing too in boxing is you're beating a guy up and he's still coming. What do you do then? Because that guy, and Charles made a good point. You can keep coming, you can still lose. It's like anything. We can be determined to do something and still not do it. There's no guarantee.
Right.
The other guy has to help a little bit, meaning like back to Conlon. Conlon got tired. That's what helped Lee Wood. He got a little slower, a little exhausted from moving around. He had been moving around the whole fight. So, and then Conlon, he got caught with a temple shot in the 12th round and got knocked out. It just one of those deals. So you sometimes have to get a little help. You're talking about that infamous football game. The Falcons started getting all conservative. They changed their mindset. Why? That's what happens. You got to get a little bit of help most of the time. Not always.
Right.
But to help you. But those kind of guys, the fictional Rocky, the Lee Wood, they don't ever stop till you stop them. and they're not going to stop. It's going to either be the referee or their corner or something else that stops them. And a lot of boxers are like that. You're right. I was thinking about Marquez. You guys love talking about that fight. We talk about that fight. That guy gets knocked down 3 times. He could have folded the tent so easy. He could have said, "Hey, I can't. This guy's so fast, I can't even see him." But he stayed very calm. He went back to his corner. He's got the professor in his corner. They're discussing it. And Marquez made adjustments. By the middle of the fight, he's popping Pacquiao with shots. I mean, that's a brilliant display of much as Lee Wood hung in on guts, Marquez hung in guts and brains. The way he was able to adjust, because Pacquiao in those days really didn't have any plan B. He was just so yeah, that is one of the best displays ever of a guy coming back from the brink and getting a draw in the fight. So, but we're going to always see that in individual sports, because it's mano a mano, one guy against the other, and then that word you like, intangibles. I don't know if I asked the question, but I do believe though the major thing about this in any sport, in basketball, baseball, football, boxing, is you either have that deeper level or you don't. You have a deeper, but then other guys can go deeper, and they're the special ones.
Well, Charles, as we're looking to close this thing out, give us an idea of where we're headed in the next few weeks. What are we looking for that we really have that we can hang our hat on? Because it's starting to amp up again.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of things, but I think most importantly for me is Errol Spence versus Ugas, because of the factor that Ugas has a point to prove. He wants to show that he's worthwhile. A lot of things out there. People said that he wanted Sean Porter fight, right? He beat a legend in Pacquiao, and he got credit for that. Something that Errol Spence was going to be the first one to have, but then he couldn't because of due to inactivity or an injury. So I think that's there. But then on the other hand, you question yourself about whether or not Errol Spence is going to be ready. And injuries are what they are, right? A detached retina is no joke. Even if you have surgery, it's still a chance that done some more shots and is hanging again or whatever, even though they repaired it. And the same thing too is has he really recovered from the automobile injuries too? So it's a lot there. So I think there's a lot of unknowns. You got 2 guys that are very confident, but also proven, which makes it for an intriguing fight, which I think is why people want to see it, because everybody wants to see it. Then of course you have Crawford on the outside just waiting to see what's happening. You have Thurman on the outside waiting to see. There's so many people watching and waiting, which makes it even more impressive, more exciting, because it's something that whatever the result comes out, it could affect other people and it affect the way the rest of the division, it develops or how it falls out the rest of the way.
Look, it's been a lot of fun, and we always have fun doing this, but this may be the only show, other than last week's show where we mentioned Gloria Swanson and Cecil B. DeMille. This could be the only show where you get actual boxing information. We talk about Elvis. We talk about Charles Bronson. We talk about Rocky. And if we had a moment, Charles had brought up the Eternal Flame. I was going to throw a Bengals reference in there as well. So we would have really been off the rails here. So we have a lot of fun doing this. It's a blast. So please tell your friends and neighbors, like, look, these guys have fun doing this. The comments we're getting, Charles, go ahead and say what you're going to say.
No, I ain't going to say nothing. I was just
point and get the hell off the street. Shut up.
No, I tell the people, let's go.
Yeah, we've been getting some comments, and one of them, I appreciate the comment, but I didn't like it because it said, that John R. knows what he's talking about. It's just the two of us don't know squat. So no, I'm just kidding.
hey, you like who you like, baby. That's cool.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You like who you like. Look, he is the more polished individual of the two of us. So that's fine. All right, look, he's the expert, right?
No, not an expert.
Seriously, though, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the positive comments. More people are finding us and what's going on. And hey, whichever Beatle you like, go for it.
Hey,
I'll be the cute one. Yeah.
long as the group is solid, that's all I care about. If you want to be Michael Jackson, it took 4 other members of the Jackson 5 to be great before he exploded. So if you want to, like, it takes a group, bro, collectively. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So however you get your information, however you love it, like it, as long as you like us and you love us and whatever, you can like who you like. You know, I ain't mad at that. So collectively, we're progressing. It's all about the group. I don't care about scoring 45 as long as we win, bro.
Yeah, and Frank, remember, Virgil Hunter named all of us. He enjoys all of us on the show, and Virgil screened some of our shows, listened to them, so he wasn't making it up. He likes our show, so that says something.
All right, so this is Bunny DeBarge saying thank you for watching the show, and I appreciate that. And only 4 people are going to catch that reference. I'm sorry. All right, this has been, again, it's a fun thing to do. We enjoy doing this, and that's what it is. This is sports. This is what this network is about. Enjoy sports, enjoy yourselves, and guys, there's a lot of stuff coming up in the next few weeks. So this is gonna be great. Thanks. Cool.